So welcome to Saas' famous Ice Dome. We're just moments away from the women's lead semi-finals kicking off. Let's take a look at the 16 athletes vying for place in tonight's finals. So first up will be all the way from Switzerland, Ladina Heller, just 17 years old. And then it's Leah Beck, Maria Soltasova, Asadi Shabnam, Haruka Takuchi, Salina Bossard, Vivian Labril, Olga Kosek from Poland. There's Emma McSwiggan from Ireland, Marianne van der Steen from the Netherlands, Marianne Salmon Thomas from France, and Sun Shin, Franziska Schönbäckler, Enni Bertling from Finland, Sina Gertz, and Petra Klingler from Switzerland. So the start list is in reverse order of qualification, so the best athletes will be going last. But first up will be the young Ladina Heller, 17 years old. She competed this time last year, and it was the youth under 19. So first time on the adult circuit for this young athlete. She's just tying in with the figure of 8 knot. All climbers have to do that. There's a little stopper knot. Just working out the moves. Quick glance at the camera. So all athletes have had 15 minutes of observation. During that time, they can look at the route, try and work it out, confer with the others. They can do that. But then when they come to climbing it, they don't get to see each other perform. All the other athletes, all 15 others, are now in isolation. They have no idea of how Ladina will get on. Now, the women have 6.5 minutes to get as high as possible. So this is it. The third and final stop on the UIAA Ice Climbing World Cup. The women's lead semi-finals. Ladina Heller begins, and the clock starts. So she was competing last weekend in Champagny. Came 23rd, didn't manage to make the semis last time around. So this is an improvement for her. So into that SAM hold, which is just a stone embedded in that bit of epoxy. Just fishes around for the right spot. So every tour stop has its kind of unique characteristics. Here in Switzerland, they like their stone, their granite. Not everyone is a fan of stone. Sometimes it can degrade over time. Although the route set I was talking to Toby Sutar earlier, who's saying that they're pre-drilled and that shouldn't happen. But he did mention that it's fiendishly difficult, the routes, both for the men and the women. Very, very delicate and technical climbing. So Ladina Heller doing well here on this first section. The vertical, uses a hand there, that's allowed. Don't get points for the hands, but we can expect to see a few moves where hands are involved. If for no other reason, the fact that the other route setter is Yannick Glattard. And anyone familiar with his style of climbing will know he occasionally likes to put the tools away and climb with his hands. Another SAM hold there on the right for Ladina, just steps right. Quite daunting being the first climber up. Quite nerve-wracking. The atmosphere's not here yet. It's still quite early in the morning. Not yet 9 o'clock, so she's doing so without the benefit of the crowd. But at the same time, there's no time to sit in isolation worrying about things. Just get out there, get on it. Minimum amount of time between observation and climbing also is a benefit. some of the later climbers, when Sina Gertz or Petra Klingler climb out, they might have been sitting in isolation for nearly 2 hours, which is a long time. So Ladina Heller going for quite a big reach here with the left, tries to just build a little bit of momentum, swinging there. And swinging is a dangerous activity because it doesn't take much for these tools to ping. And we can see what it's resting on, and that is not very much. Ladina Heller. 3.5 minutes. Oh, no, doesn't get it. So that brings to a close her semi-finals route. An improvement on last weekend's performance, so that's all good experience. She got into the semis, wasn't quite able to connect with that big reach off to the left, and she manages a smile, which is always good to see. So the next athlete up will be Leah Beck. But Ladina Heller just putting on the down jacket. Still quite cold here, it's -8 degrees. Really important for athletes to be good and properly warmed up before they begin their ascents. Good idea of the equipment there. You can really sort of see the crampons, just that single short mono point up front. Needed to just kick in, you drive it into the wood, and a couple of stabilizing points to the side. But otherwise the boots are really more like rock shoes. So we're just waiting for Leah Beck. Isolation is just a little bit, it's not quite on site, it's a little bit of a walk. So I think Ladina's early departure from this route has perhaps surprised Leah. She's not quite ready. Great view of the ice dome. And you have to imagine that this evening, where we have the finals at 7:30, this will just be rammed with fans cheering and screaming and hollering. And it is super exciting. I can see someone in a yellow jacket running, and that is normally the yellow jacket of Switzerland. But maybe it's maybe that's Leah. Team Japan there. So a reminder that this is the lead semi-finals. Here she is, Leah Beck. So Leah Beck actually won last night's speed finals. So hopefully she's managed to recover from that performance. And now to begin her lead attempt in the semi-finals. So she was fast in the climbing, not so fast in getting to the start line. But we'll forgive her that. So she's 22 years old. Got her younger sister also taking part in this contest. So anything really is an improvement for her. She placed 20th this time last year in the World Championships, when it was a World Championship year. So she has 6.5 minutes beginning now for Leah Beck from Liechtenstein. Then we go ahead just using the hand as well as the tool. Goes into that Stein move. Mixed thoughts on why it's called a Stein. Some will tell you it's due to the German for rock, which is probably the right answer, but it also neatly matches what it's like to pull a pint of beer, which is also called a Stein. She moves up into that Sam hold on the left, and that's the little bit of rock set inside that hold, that circular disc. And it's really important You can only touch the stone. You can't touch the whites around the disc. That is out of bounds. And most holds, if not all the holds, have an exact spot where you need to place that pick. They need to be taken in a certain way. Oh, she just lost her feet there. Needs to kick them in, really drive those crampon points in. Now it's kind of opposite shoulders. Reaches with the left in the second position with her hand. Most tools will have 3 places where you can place your hand. There's also a reverse grip as well. Goes into now that little undercling Stein move. Stein is when the head of the axe, the cheeks rest against that wall. It's a very, very secure position to be, and it allows you to climb really quite high up. Quite strenuous, however. So Leah is part of four siblings, 3 of whom at one point competing on the World Cup. There was Linus Beck, who's no longer competing, and her younger sister Leah has also been competing here this weekend. It reaches up now into that next Sam hold. But Ladina just got to this. Ladina Heller was the point where she got to the 5th quick draw. Stepping up with her feet. 3.5 minutes remaining. Still plenty of time. It's quite a big reach. She also wants to kind of get into position, like build it, get into a little bit of the momentum, and she sticks it. No problems there for Leah Beck. She also competed here back in 2020. And again, she didn't make the semi-finals then. She ranked 20th. So again, this is an improvement on that. All good experience for this 22-year-old from Liechtenstein. That tiny principality bordering Switzerland and Austria. So another Sam hold there on the right. Lots of these little stone holds. Good footwork. So there are 19 quick draws in all. And this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. The first part of the route is vertical, and now it starts to get a little bit more overhanging, a little bit more strenuous and delicate climbing. It's not really a game of strength, it's a game of flexibility, balance, agility, almost gymnastics at times. So Leah Beck just getting rid of some of that lactic acid, a little bit of pump. Shakes out the arms. It does help. Just get the feeling back in. Remember, it's also -8 degrees. Sometimes with that cold, you do lose the dexterity in your hands. And as we can see, she's using her hands here. That's something that the route setters will have deliberately done. Look, both hands. The important thing to know with using your hands is you don't get the points. If she were to fall here, she would not get the points. She needs to just, and she's off. And she won't get the points for that. If she managed to touch that stone hold, she'll get an additional point. We'll have to see whether it is granted. I don't think it will be. So that's the attempt over for Leah Beck. So this is all about trying to qualify into tonight's finals, which kick off at 7:30 p.m. And that really will be super exciting. Leah Beck. And now should be Maria Soltasova coming up next. The bib comes off. There are lots of helpers here today, lots of volunteers. We've got the belayers, we've got judges, route setters. A big thank you to all of them for making this event possible. Helping the athletes as well. And she gets a hug there. It's only a tough route. I was talking to the route setters earlier, and one of the things that it was Toby Suto who told me that it really is technical climbing this, and they like to think it's one of the more difficult styles on the circuit. It's just different. It's not necessarily more difficult, but just slightly different, more unique. They don't really go in for, he said there are not so many figure of four moves. But I think in the finals we'll certainly see lots of the full range, the full gamut of climbing skills and moves, the full repertoire, everything from dynos, using the hands, to really bold, strenuous pulls or the tools. So, next up, all the way from Slovakia, is Maria Soltasova. Here she is, Maria Soltasova, 38 years old, and she is super excited to be competing for the first time on the World Tour. She had a full season last year on the European Tour. Best ever result was third in Brno back in 2020. So let's see what she has got in store for us today. So Maria Soltasova has 6.5 minutes beginning now. Starts with that side pull onto that stone into the stein. And you can see really clearly now how bomber that is. And reaches up with the hand. Sometimes you will see athletes just try and get the points with the tool before removing the tool and then replacing the tool with the hand, because you don't get the points with your hand. Now she matches there, both tools on that tiny little stone hold. Awkward climbing as well with the tool in the mouth. That's a whole different skill to have. Not many sports that require your teeth. Trying to think, if any. So reaches up with the right. The side pull on the left. It's all about the balance and the tension, holding that body position. And number one is just keeping that pick steady. You do not want pick wobble. You just see how close she came to losing her balance there. Keeping that pick in the right place and holding it in that position. Even as you move through the move, we'll see her moving up now. She just moves her hand slightly further up the tool. Gives her a little bit more space just to get this hold with the left. I think she initially was looking to reach that with her hand and soon realized, no, you need to get it with the tool. It looks pretty bomber, that hold. Just checks with the hand, just to make sure that it's good. Using her hand as well. Difficult when you're using your hands, of course, there's fewer places to put your tools. One tool in the mouth and then one over the shoulder. Into the stein. 3.5 minutes remaining. Gets that fourth draw. Remember that all the points, the main points, come from the quick draw. So they really determine your score above all else. There's just nothing on that stone hold. So delicate. She just has to inch her way up. Reach for the next one. And then can she get that next quick draw? Kicks with the feet. Gets that fourth draw. We can see the high point achieved by Leah Beck. That's the 10th draw. So another 5 to go. 3 minutes remaining. So the clock. There's not a lot of time. Oh, she's struggling now. Right foot just popped out. Big reach. She gets it. That's where Ladina Hella came unstuck. But no problems for Soltasova. And onto that next quick draw. Reaches up onto the right, onto that hold on the volume. Good work here from Maria Soltasova. She's now moving well through these moves. Just swaps hands on the tool, works them forward into the second and third position. Just gives you a little bit more height. She's moved lower, changes hands now. That's her left in that higher position on the tool. Can be a little bit more unstable the higher you hold it. Decides to match with the right. Get the feet a little bit higher onto that volume. Now onto that next Sam hold. Not a lot of Sam holds here. This looks quite awkward. It's a side pull. Can she get the draw? She can. Getting the draws are part of the challenge, then they're not easy either. So now you can see on the right, she's got that shiny metal hold. It's kind of quite a new-ish hold. They've been come in the last sort of few years. We see more and more of them. Athletes actually quite like them. Their shiny metal is super slippery. However, once you've got the pick in, that tiny little sweet spot's got a hole in it, an exact spot where you've got to put your pick, it's really solid. It can take some getting used to. Now, what's she going to do here? She's using her hands on the volume. She's going for the quick draw. That's quite a good move just to get the points. And reaches. Ooh, big reach. She might get the point at least for touching that hold. 30 seconds remaining. Gets her feet onto that other volume. 20 seconds remaining. Super awkward moves here. Very overhanging terrain. She hasn't got much room now. Only hope is just to lunge. Oh, she goes for the dyno, and she'll get a point for that. Maria Soltasova, great performance there from the Slovakian. So with every climber, we should see them getting just a little bit further on the route. That's the way it's designed. They climb in descending order from there, according to yesterday's qualification. So she made it to that first hanging block. the first athlete to do so. He's looking pretty, big smiles, good to see. So just behind there, you can see just in the corner, she's got the hall of the famous Hall of Fame. All the legendary climbers who have won here over the years. Saas has been hosting climbing competitions for over 20 years. Of course, is one of the highlights of the ice climbing calendar. This year we've got 101 athletes in total from 19 countries taking part in lead and speed. Now, this is Shabnam Asadi, who comes all the way from Iran. She was also competing in the speed. Where she came 6th last night. So again, hopefully she has recovered from all the excitement from that great battle to compete in the semi-finals here. So athletes have a minute to tie in and begin their route. If they take any longer, the clock will just start without them. So she has one last look to kind of check the way. You often see the hands moving just to kind of figure out, you know, left, right, work out the moves. It is a mental game. It is a puzzle, a little bit like chess. Just got to work out those moves in advance. Jacket comes off. Big smile there from Shabnam Asadi, 34 years old. She's straight into that Stein. 6.5 minutes now to get as high as she possibly can on this route. Often the first few moves are the hardest for athletes just because the nerves are playing up, a little bit nervous. And, you know, when the nerves are there, anything can go wrong. Sometimes you're a little bit anxious, you can make mistakes. Sometimes you can be a little bit over-enthusiastic. But so far, Asadi seems to be more or less in control. I mean, she's been competing, she told me yesterday, for about 6 or 7 years. Although, of course, in the last few years, it hasn't been great with COVID, of course, making competition difficult. This is actually the first time we've had a World Cup stop here for 3 years. Last year was a World Championship event. That was great, but of course many athletes from around the world weren't able to come. Shabnam Asadi. Just working her way up there. Big reach now with the left. Moves the feet. Little shake with the left there. Either just to get a little bit of the pump out, possibly just to get the feeling in the fingers into that little undercling. Is it? Can't quite see if it's a yes. It's just a floating undercling, like the Stein, but just not quite as stable. The head of the axe, little spiky bit, which is called the cheek, where it's not flush against the wall. So it's all about body tension, not so much about strength. Searches for the optimum position for the pick here. There is a right way. Do you take it on the left? Do you take it on the right? Doing really well here. Shabnam Asadi takes this hold with the left and matches the right hand into that third position on the tool and gets the fifth quick draw. Reminder of the high point was achieved by Maria Soltesova, who got to the 10th quick draw, and then she made the 19th move on the wall, and then she got an additional 1 point, which indicates that she managed to touch the next hold. So Asadi going into a figure 4 quite early here, and that allows you, that stabilizes the pick. She's taking it slightly differently, which is interesting, but it works for her. Can she get the next draw? Shake of the hand. Reminders -8. It's not warm, and these gloves don't give you any warmth. They're just for dexterity. They're part of the mandatory equipment. There's not a lot of mandatory clothing that you can wear. You can pretty much decide what you need. You just have to have a helmet, harness, and full body clothing and gloves. And of course, for Asadi, she wears the hijab. Climbing fans will remember what happened to Elnaz Rakabi, a sport climber who didn't wear a hijab back in Seoul, the sport climbing event last year in October. So into that shiny metal hold. Just got to find the right spot. There's a pre-drilled hole in it. So once you get the pick in that, it's super solid. Gets that 9th quick draw. Sadie looking really quite calm and confident here. But there is only 1 minute 30 remaining on the clock. So to get into the final, it's a tall order, knowing how many experienced athletes are coming after her. So she reaches with the right hand. Now, those touching the hole won't give you any more points, so uses her hand on that volume. Now both hands, can she get that 10th draw? A minute remaining. Gets her feet over onto that other panel. Will it be enough? She pulled through the rope. Gets the draw. Looking good, 40 seconds remaining. Still a long way to go on this route. You've got that hanging box as the focus next. Big reach now. Oh, and she just comes off there. Not sure exactly what happened there. Didn't quite reach it. So Shabnam Asadi. Good effort there from the Iranian climber. He's been told to take her bib off. See her coach behind her. Now, next up is Haruko Takuchi. Now, she's having a pretty good season so far. She was 5th in Cheongsong, 10th in Champagny, and currently the ranked 7th overall in the overall titles. So, top 10 performance from Takuchi, one of Japan's top climbers. She'll be hoping to go through, wondering whether she can get into the final. She came second in the Asian Championships in Cheongsong. Same performance that got her the 5th in the world. So I think we can expect some great things here from Takuchi. Let's hope so. Interesting boots she's got. They kind of almost look like just regular rock shoes with some crampon points just put on the front. Which they might well be. A lot of climbers make their own equipment. Whether that's Mohsen Beshtirad making his own ice tools, or sometimes they fashion their own stuff. You can make your own equipment, but there are standards. Every tool has to fit into a box that measures 50 centimeters by 25 centimeters. As long as it fits in that box, it's good. But you'll see a lot of different variation in the type of tools. When we come to Emma McSwiggan, she has a very different style of ice tool, which is quite interesting. These tools, of course, very different from kind of tools that you use on pure waterfall ice. These are dry tooling axes with a much more aggressive pick and a much stronger pick, designed to be used on hard holds on stone and resin, metal. Also, it's not so serrated at the pick to make it easier to place. So Takuchi just fishing around for the optimum place there, and she's got it. It's that floating undercling. Now it's about holding that position, keeping the body tension. Can she reach? Can she get the hold? She can. Quick draw number 4. Reaches up onto that SAM hold. How that pick stays there, it's a wonder really. Just it's so small. Just goes to show with the right weighting on the pick, you can actually get quite a lot of purchase. So she's moving pretty quickly up here now, 4 minutes to reach this point. About 30 seconds faster than some of the earlier athletes we saw. Matches with the right tool. It gets the feet a little bit higher up now. This is a big reach. This is where Shabnam Asadi went into figure 4 to be able to reach that next hold. And she is also working into that figure of 4. Just helps to give you that stability, weight the pick down, and gets you a little bit higher in the move so that you can then reach up. And it works for Takuchi. She is the 5th female athlete in the women's semi-final here in Saas, the final stop in the Ice Climbing World Cup. Sponsored by Outdoor Research. Big shout out to them. Couldn't happen without their support. Also a big shout out to the Swiss Alpine Club and all the organisers, particularly the team led by Kurt Arnold and Dario Andermatten. Great work they've done. And the route setters Yannick Glattard and Toby Sutar. They really know how to put on a great event here. So still 2 minutes remaining for Haruko Takuchi. And she seems to be just picked up the pace a little bit. Reaches with the right hand onto that volume. I should be looking to get that quick draw as early as possible. And it's not a great hold. And it's also not fantastic with gloves on. Just kind of lay backing off it. If she falls here, it's not great because you don't get the points from the hold. Gets her tool into this metal hold. And then it's onto what would have been an ice barrel, but it is now a wooden box. Sadly, we had some warm temperatures here that just made it too dangerous. Oh, and she sticks it. Great work there from Takuchi. He now moves into the lead. She's got to get that draw, though. Minute remaining on the clock. So instead of ice barrels, we now have wooden boxes. Now she's got to get this stone hold. Looks like she's going to take it with a stein. She's got the reverse grip on, holding that tool. She's just got to try and hook it. Yep, got it. Great work there from Takuchi. Now 30 seconds remaining. She's really going to fight now to get on the as high as possible. She does stand a good chance of making it into the finals. But to really secure her place, she'll want to just get a little bit higher in the rope. Big reach, didn't get it on the first time. It's that Sam hold again, 15 seconds. She can just get her tool on it. She might get a couple more points. 10 seconds now. Running out of time now. She's off. The clock is going to end on her attempt. She just hasn't got the reach. She needs to move her feet, and her attempt is over. Great work there from Haruko Takuchi. We shall have to wait and see whether that is enough to get her into the finals tonight, which are at 7:30 p.m. local time. Great swing there, just really shows the strength of these women, being able to just hang off one arm. Now her best attempt here was that first time, but she was really just off on her second and third attempts. So this is Selina Bossard, now from Switzerland. She's a very young athlete, 19 years old, but has already been competing a few years, since 2019. Almost makes her a veteran. Came up through the youth ranks. And she came second last year, in fact, in the under-19s. So she now ties on with a figure of 8. So correction on the timings, it is 7 p.m, not 7:30. Excuse me, it's 7 o'clock when all the action kicks off. The final showdown. And of course, it's the men's semi-final at 1 p.m. So do tune in for that. Here is Selina Bossard, ready to begin her attempt to get into those finals tonight. Six and a half minutes starts now. She did well last weekend in Champagny-en-Vanoise in France. Didn't quite make the finals, but she came 12th, and she put in a good performance. Works as a lumberjack. So this should be pretty straightforward compared to the day job of climbing trees with axes and chainsaws. This fishes around for the right sweet spot on that stone hold with the left. Matches with the right in that third position. Looks up to the quick draw, and I think she just realised she just doesn't have the height to reach it. Needs to get a little bit high onto that next hole. It's always a little bit of a mental game for athletes, knowing when to get that quick draw. Of course, with the quick draw giving the points, you want to get that draw as early as possible. However, the optimum position to get that draw is really with the draw at kind of waist height or chest height, easily within reach. You don't want to be sort of at the very limit of your reach trying to get the draws, as that tends to cost you in energy. Selena Bossard making good progress up this first vertical section of the wall onto that really sketchy Sam hold. But so far it seems to be pretty solid actually for most of the athletes. And then it's these two Sam holds, and then it's that big reach up. We'll see if she goes into the figure of four. Both Takuchi and Asadi took it with a figure of four. Ladina Heller came off. So Bossard, she gets it with the left there, no problems at all. She's quite tall. She's got a good ape index, plus 3 centimeters, where your arm span is just slightly longer than your height. So good reach. Just over 3 minutes remaining on the clock for this young Swiss athlete. One of 6 Swiss athletes who are in the semis today. Gets the 8th draw. Reaches up onto that volume with the hand. Gets quick draw number 9. 2.5 minutes remaining. Now this is a slightly awkward layback, but she's not going to treat it as a layback. She's just going to use that phenomenal reach with the arm to try and get that metal hold. That's not going to work, so she's going to try and something different. Perhaps thinking about that draw, getting that draw. Good work. That gets her onto the scoreboard. It just gets her onto that 10th point, and she's already moved up ahead there. So I didn't quite stick it that first time. She did good. She just hasn't been able to find quite the spot exactly where to take it. Really moves over now. And she got it. No. Difficult move. It's a difficult hold. You've just got to hook the tool on it. And be in the right body position. It looks like it's a hold that doesn't like it if you're in momentum. You've got to have a really static body position to be able to tension it off. All over for Selena Bossard. Difficult to see if she's happy with that performance or a little disappointed. Always difficult. No athlete wants to come off earlier than the clock. Sport, of course, there's always going to be heartache, pain and joy. And she looks a little bit upset there, just getting some love from her teammates, which is nice to see. But the next athlete is Vivian Labaril, who is the overall speed champion. She takes the title this year. She came third last night, but it was enough to secure the overall title in speed. So anything else is a bonus for her. And she's not bad either in lead. She was fourth last weekend. So really she's on fire, Vivian Labaril, at the moment. Still only 24 years old. And all the more remarkably, last weekend she was telling me she's got a hamstring injury, so obviously that's not holding her back. Here we go, getting the blood. Sometimes when you do that, you can literally feel this warm blood just reaching into your fingertips. Just helps to get the blood flowing. You need that in your hands for the dexterity. She makes a fast start, kicks up with the feet. Often you'll see the athletes just really trying to work this opening section as fast as they can. And she's really got the experience, Vivian. I mean, she's been competing now for about 10 years. She says her strength is her creativity, but her weakness is the confidence in her head. I'm not sure lack of confidence will be affecting her, especially after last night's performance. She must be feeling on fire at the moment. But there is one bit of bad news for Vivian Labaril. Her favourite move are jugs. And when I was talking to the route setter, Toby Suter, last night, he was telling me they don't do jugs here. It's not a concept that they're familiar with in Saas. So there are no jugs. She also hates underclings, Vivian Labaril, and she just goes into one there. Doesn't seem to mind it too much. Using the left hand there with the reverse grip, that's less demanding on your upper body strength. It just uses the broader muscles of your back as opposed to your sort of biceps and shoulder muscles, arm muscles. All those muscles require a lot of work. She dedicates about 10 hours per week to training, even though she has a full-time job as well, works for Swiss Air as a doctor's assistant. Vivian Labaril matching both hands there on that same SAM hold. Now with 4.5 minutes remaining on the clock, so almost a minute faster than previous competitors. It's just a big reach now with the left up onto that block. She also goes into the figure of four. That's the opposite leg to the opposite arm. Steps up. Oh, she gets it. A little bit dangerous, quite scary. And then wastes no time into that resin hold there with the left. Straight onto the SAM. Lots of stone holds here. This is, of course, a feature of Saas, the granite. Saas, famous for being surrounded by more 4,000-meter mountains than anywhere else. There are 13 of them. And if you can name them without looking at Wikipedia, well, special prize goes to you. So there's the Dom, Halallenhorn, the Tashhorn, Lenspitz, Nadelhorn. Some great iconic mountains. Vivian Labaril. Just a few draws behind the high point reached by Haruko Takuchi, with just over 2.5 minutes remaining. That was a very delicate reach with the right. Matches, gets the left onto that volume. And we've seen some athletes kind of lay back off this. She's sort of taking it more directly. Nice footwork with the feet. Really see the kind of the hip flexibility there, so important. And there's nothing worse than a quick draw that just won't play. But she gets it. And she finds the tool in the sweet spot. This is where Bossard came off. And we can see it's just about tensioning that tool. Not sure why it didn't work for Bossard, but Labaril, it's working for her. Oh, that was close, very close. She doesn't hang around. She's like, I'm onto that block. I want to get off this sketchy medal hold as soon as possible. So she's on the first of the hanging barrels. Now, once these might have been ice, but unfortunately conditions made that possible, so they're now made of wood. Still a few draws away from Takuchi's high point. Vivian Labaril needs to get a move on. We can now hear teammates and other competitors willing her on. Ale gets the under and over there. The Stein, it's just super solid. You can just hang a truck off that. Now it's a big reach. Get that draw. Less than a minute remaining for Vivian Labaril. Bit of a shake. Steps up now. Can she get that big hold? This was the one that Takuchi couldn't get. But Takuchi had got the quick draw. "30 seconds, just trying to get her breath back. Not easy as well with a tool in the mouth. Really hard to actually breathe. Takes quite a bit of skill. Now she's as high as she can. She's going for that big hold. A big reach. 10 seconds remaining. She's coming unstuck here. The clock is counting down on Vivian Labaril's final attempt. She gets it. Oh, doesn't quite stick it. She might get a point for touching it, but unfortunately she wasn't able to get that the next quick draw, which means that she is still behind Haruko Takuchi. Nice work, though, from Vivian Labaril. It will be touch and go whether that will see her into the final. For that to happen, there would need to be some serious upsets amongst the big hitters who are to follow. Among them, Sina Gertz, Petra Klinger, and Sun Shin. Some real heroes of the sport. So that brings to an end Vivian's climb. Just getting a nice look there of the area where athletes come in. Of course, tonight this will turn into something of a party. It's quite famous for it, where the athletes let their hair down with members of the public. And here is Olga Kosak from Poland. Olga also competing in speed, and she came second overall in the title. She only managed 9th last night, but it was enough to get her the points. Looking to be second overall in the World Cup standings for 2023. Olga is another super experienced athlete, 31 years old, who's been around really for years and years, peak of her powers. She works as a climbing coach, instructor, guide. Has made first ascents in the Tatras Mountains and has been competing in the UIAA for many years. Didn't manage to get the finals, though, last weekend in Champagne. She was ranked 11th. So she will be hoping that she can get into the final 8 today. Now, to do that, she needs to improve on the high point reached by the Japanese athlete Haruko Takuchi. 13:21.1. Olga Kosek. 6.5 minutes to get as high as she possibly can. It's not a race, but the clock is ticking. Very, very different set of skills required in lead difficulty compared to speed. They're really totally different sports, demanding different skill sets, different levels of fitness. And we've had 3 back-to-back tournaments, so whether there's a lot of question marks over whether athletes have been able to. It's very demanding. It takes their toll. They've been competing last night. Will Olga have managed to get a good night's sleep? So important in recovery. Will she be feeling fresh? Is she feeling her best mentally? All these questions play into the minds of athletes. And she would have been sitting in isolation for almost an hour. And it's really important that you come out here with a positive mindset and use that isolation to stay focused, stay positive. So far, so good for Olga Kosek. She's competed in every tour stop this season. Pretty exhausting. She did make the finals in Cheongsong in Korea. Got to that final 8. Goes into that. There's 2 SAM holds there. And this is the one that looks like it shouldn't be able to support any kind of weight, but in fact is quite positive, looking at how athletes have been taking it. Big reach. No need for the figure of 4 for Olga Kosek. Quite a tall girl. 175 centimeters. About 5'9" for those who use old money. So this is where kind of the fun stuff starts to kick in. You've got that triangular volume which needs to be taken with the hands. And then it's the big reach onto the metal hold before getting onto the hanging block. She's got 3 minutes remaining on the clock, so she's got good time. Gets the pick into that sweet spot of the metal hold. Just gets the left tool, just caught a little bit in the rope. Good rope management, very important, of course, in this sport. Being able to clip those draws quickly and efficiently, very important. It's a massive time-saving thing. You'll see the top athletes like Olga just clipping them in one fluid movement. But even the best of them, sometimes you can get stuck with a quick draw. You might get rope drag. So she's a little bit lay-backing off this. Definitely some sport climbing experience is useful. Great move there, just clipping that draw so efficiently, just as I mentioned. Now, big reach. Oh, no! Just lost her balance. Difficult with that volume, because if you're lay backing off it, the moment you swing round to the right, you've got to connect with that hold. There's nothing really there on that left hand to keep you in place if you miss the big reach. She just didn't quite have it. And yeah, raises her hands up. But there's a smile. That's what we like to see. Even if it's not quite as the performance that you want, it's great to see athletes still managing to put on a smile. Now, here is someone who had a massive smile yesterday, Emma McSwiggan, who was convinced that she wasn't going to make the finals after an infringement. It turned out to be not the case, and so when she learnt that she wasn't going to be marked down, she was ecstatic, and she's super excited to be in the finals, because she is in the World Cup standings at the moment. She's currently ranked third overall. It's one of her best performances in many years. So, of course, that's still a little bit of a way off. This is just the semis. So she's just got to get into the finals. But, yeah, yesterday she got a reprieve. Dodged a bullet, as they say. So, Emma McSwiggan from Ireland, 44 years old, been competing for just over a decade. Again, a really, really experienced athlete. And even though she's perhaps not as training as hard as she has done in the past, she's in tip-top condition, as we've seen in Cheongsong and Champagny. Gets into that Stein early on. She came fourth in Cheongsong, third last weekend. So really having a superb season so far. But let's not jinx it. This is the final stop of the UIAA Ice Climbing World Cup here in Saas. And we are watching Emma McSwiggan. She's just matching tools on that SAM. And we see her tools are very different to some of the other athletes. It's a kind of unique Korean style of tool. Oh, close, 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 just didn't have it. They have a very high third position that you can see there on her left hand, which gives you a bit of extra height. But they do favour a style of much more sort of technical climbing. Not great for flying dynos. So that would have given Emma a little bit of a shock. Just crosses the right there. Have to be careful the picks don't touch. You're not allowed to place a pick on top of another pick. They've got to be alongside each other. Extraordinary tools. Quite a kind of artistic design. So into that Stein. Steps up high, becomes a floating under cling there. You can see the body tension in Emma, it's no problem. Reaches and gets that SAM hold. Just searching, just pulling a little. Sometimes what you'll see athletes just tweaking it once they get the pick into place. They'll jiggle it around a little bit just to make sure it's good. She does that, gets the left foot on that volume, and then steps up. Very different to sport climbing in the sense that the feet really can only go in at 90 degrees. Oh, there's a big reach now. Not far to go for her. She's almost there, but she's got to commit to it. And she does, and that's no problems at all. Oh, close. A couple of dangerous moments for Emma McSwiggan. And then moves efficiently through those moves. With the feet, you're limited in the sense that your foot placement always needs to be 90 degrees to get that optimum position, unlike sport climbing where you can really got that ankle flexibility and movement. You can place your foot anywhere and smear, but you can't in this discipline. So, McSwiggan. Now it's at these two Sams before that traverse right, and she's only got just over 2.5 minutes left on the clock, and she's lost a little bit of time, so she will want to move as quickly as possible. Now here we're seeing just that, there's a little bit of rope drag there, a little bit difficult to get that draw into that metal hold, and that's super solid there, so she can move quickly across that. Then onto the volume. Now how is she going to take this volume? She's going to get both hands on it. Now there's a little shake of the left. A little bit of the fatigue is there. So, gets her right hand. She knows it's not a great hold. Gets the right leg over. Very difficult this now. She's getting that 10th draw. Good work. Tool in the mouth, the other tool resting over her shoulder. You have to be careful as well. You don't knock one of those tools off. That can happen, and she's off herself. Really difficult move that. It's proving the crux of this route. And it does favour a certain style of climbing, and Emma just looked, yeah, she can't quite believe it. Very unlucky there. She was lucky there at this point, though. So it could have been worse. It could have been worse. And she just lost the purchase on that left hand. It was sort of resting on the arete part of that volume. Of course, with gloves on, it's just not quite the same amount of grip as being bare hands. So with that ascent, Emma, it's probably all over for her. All over for today's World Cup rankings, but also for the World Tour. It'll be difficult to see how she can stay in third place in the overall rankings with Sina Gertz, who is just knocking on the door with 12 points behind her. So Sina Gertz will almost certainly overtake her if she can get a little bit higher on this route. But Emma McSwiggan there reliving the climb. Good view of the speed wall here. The scene of so much drama and excitement last night. Do check that feed out as well on our YouTube channel. So here we can see the leaderboard with Haruka Takeuchi still in numero uno position as Marianne van der Steen now comes out, hoping that she might be able to knock Takeuchi off that high point. Like McSwiggan, van der Steen is another experienced athlete, 38 years old, also at the peak of her powers. Flying in there with a figure of 8. Great jargon, the language of climbing. You've got the figure of 8s, which is a knot, the figure of 4s, the figure of 9s, which type of moves, the Stein, the Gaston. The Gaston is a sort of move where your hands are facing the other way. It's really a kind of shouldery move. perhaps named after Gaston Rebouffat, the famous French alpinist. So Marianne is rocking the leopard skin pants. Rather like the Koreans have all got these same sort of prints on their down jackets. So she should really probably be very cool with the Koreans. So Marianne van der Steen, 6.5 minutes to get as high as she can to try and get herself into the finals at 7 p.m. tonight. So she's having a good season so far. Currently 5th in the overall rankings. 5th last weekend in France and Champagny-en-Vanoise. 6th in Cheongsong. She looks up there just to check that stone hold is good. Oh, just the right pick slip there. Takes it direct on. Matches with the left. And then pulls that rope up. Middle finger through the bottom of the gate. And then you use your thumb just to sort of flick the rope over. Tiny hold that. That's almost a Gaston move there. Just uses the hand to steady herself into that next hold, the red. Gets the next draw. So whereas in Champagny-en-Vanoise we saw a lot of ice in the route, this in this event here in Saas we're not seeing any ice. It's all dry tooling, all features and wood and stone. Now the first of these 2 Sam holds before that big committing reach with the left. Marianne van der Steen, she's not the fastest of climbers. She also struggles a little bit with her mental state. She tells us she's often insecure there and will write positive notes to herself, saying things like, I'm strong, I can do this. That's what she would have been telling herself in isolation. I can do this. Onto that small rock, a feature of these Saas Fey mountains. Just wiggles the pick just to make sure she's got the right spot, she's taking it in the correct way. Three and a half minutes remaining. She's in good time. Big reach there with the right onto that metal hold. Gets the 9th draw. Now it's onto... She got it? She's got it. Next it's onto the volume. Now this is where Marianne's big hands may prove an advantage. She's got massive hands. Strong hands, not always an advantage holding a tool. But maybe they will help her here. Let's see, so many athletes have come unstuck at this point. It's proving the real crux of the route. Can she do it? Just gets the tool over, no problem. Got the reach, but it's where that pick needs to sit and where the body is. She's getting lower, and I think that is the way you need to take it. You need to get down onto that lower volume and not lose that left hand. There, she's got it in the right place. Commits to it. Matches with the left. You can see the pick wobble there. That's just a bit of a reach, and she's got it onto the hanging block. Marianne van der Steen now in sight of the high point reached by Haruka Takuchi with 2 minutes remaining on the clock. That definitely seems to be the way to take that move, moving a little bit lower down in that volume, just so that the pick is just a little bit lower down Now into that Stein. She goes for the next quick draw. That's a good move. She still needs to get the next one to match the high point by Haruka Takuchi, who really did a great performance earlier this morning. Is she going to go for the hold? Yes, she is, and she gets it. Now she's going to get the draw. A minute remaining on the clock. Just struggled a little bit to get the rope into the carabiner. And that can happen when you're starting to get to the limits of your endurance. Things just start to get a little bit more awkward. And this hanging box is also very awkward because by its nature it's hanging, it's moving, it's unstable. A little shake of the left. Great work here from Marianne van der Steen, who's moved into the lead. Gets that 14th draw. Still a lot of very, very strong female athletes behind her. She knows that she has to get as high as she can. Get into the finals tonight. Big reach up onto that metallic hold. You can really see just how far she has to go. Only 20 seconds remaining, 15 seconds. She gets it. This is looking very good for van der Steen now to be into the finals. Great work there. Gets it just as the clock runs out and maybe even the point on that stone. Great work there from the Dutch athlete. That will almost certainly see her through to the finals tonight. There, she got it and realised early on that it would be too dangerous. She needed to get lower. You just see the wobble, how unstable that is. So with only 6 athletes to come, that means that Marianne van der Steen will definitely go through to tomorrow's finals. Currently the person lying in 8th place is Leah Beck. Big smiles there from Marianne. She seems pretty happy with that. It's sharp points. Looks like they've been sharpened overnight. Gets a hug from her husband, Dennis van Hoek. And now we have Marianne Salmon-Thomas from France, the only French female athlete in the semis. She's one of the most experienced members of the team, been competing since 2015. Marianne Thomas, she was taking, I saw in observation, many athletes will just look up with binoculars, and it's quite incredible to see. She had a blank piece of paper and just completely mapped out the route, drawn the topo. So for the past hour and a half, she would have been sitting in isolation, just looking at that topo that she drew. Looks behind, just checks everything's in order with the judges, and she's off. 6.5 minutes. Very serious athlete. She was telling me how important it is to work on the visualization before a climb. She's been replaying all the videos from last year, seeing her performances, thinking about that positive mindset. How important it is, the mental state, and visualizing those moves so that they are second nature. So still only 27 years old, Marion Samantoma. She's also competed in last night's speed. So maybe there might be a little bit of fatigue in her muscles as well. She didn't just compete, she came second. So she's already got one podium. You can see the famous La Plan sticker on her tool there from Champagny-en-Vanoise, which is the same resort as La Plan. Like Saas, it's also been a tour stop for many years on the ice climbing world tour. Goes into that floating undercling. Takes it really quite well there, very confidently. It's not an easy way to climb. Doesn't offer a lot of stability just with that pick wobble. Gets the feet, keeps the hips in nice and close to the wall. Matches both picks on that SAM and just allows herself just to check. You know, it's important those picks are in the right place. Reaches up with the left. Fishes around a little bit for the sweet spot on that hold. Now it's that big reach to the left. Seen many athletes going for a figure of 4 before committing. Whether we'll see Marion do that, I'm not sure. She's just going to reach up and go for it. Can she just reach? And she does. Obviously doing that, it's much, much quicker. The moment you start going into a figure of 4, it kind of takes a little bit of time. Moving quickly now, Marion Thomas. So she needs to get above the high point reached by Leah Beck, which is the joint. Leah Beck and Shabnam Asadi actually both have the same score of 10.18. So you've got to get across that traverse to guarantee her spot. So both tools on that SAM hold. Big reach there, the limit of her reach. Works the feet. Now it's about getting the points with those quick draws. Middle finger in, and with the thumb and just flick it over into the metal hold now. Get the leg over, get the legs over. And now we're coming up to that volume. Pulls through, gets the points, reaches up with the right. Nice work. Now, how is she going to take this? Starts there with the hand on top, which obviously gives the most security to begin with. But it seems that this medal hold, to commit to it, you need to be a little bit lower down on that volume. With bated breath, we watch as Marion Samantoma. Yeah, she's now moving down. She's going to lower herself onto that little volume. She's worked it out. And she worked it out. That's where you need to be. Just a little bit lower. And she gets her feet onto that lower volume. She's worked out that is the way to take it. Now it's the big reach with the right onto that hanging wooden box. Big cries of Ale, Ale from below. Oh, and she pings. She thought she was secure, and that hold just isn't secure at all. Disappointing there for Marion Thomas. And it will be a close one between Selina Bossa, Olga Kosak, Shabnam Asadi, Leah Beck, who all have very close scores of 10.18. They all fell at exactly the same spot. So it will be a difficult call for the judges there. Marion Thomas, she was just slightly higher in the move, though, from those other girls. She moves into 5th place. So it seems that she has secured her place into tomorrow's finals. We'll have to wait until the very end just to confirm that. but she was just a little bit further in the move than Selina Bossa and Olga Kosek and Shabnam Masaria. Leah Beck now out. She no longer qualifies for the finals. Just she's getting a little bit of a debrief there from her teammate Vegel Devin, who was one of the surprises who didn't qualify for the men. There's Marion van der Steen. Next up is Un San Shin. And Sun was telling me yesterday that she's starting to look ahead to the time when she might not be competing and thinking about being a route setter, which would be the first female route setter on the World Cup. But still at the peak of her strength and ability. Extraordinary athlete, one of the legends of the sport. She's been around for almost 15 plus years. Starts with that Stein, the up and the that's the side pull she's going for. Straight away there's a handhold on the first move. But definitely I think we can see the hand of Yannick Glattard in some of these moves. He's a climber, he's a route setter, former competitor, who won here in 2019 and competed for 7 years on the World Cup. And his style is often to use the hands, so I think we can see some of his handiwork here in the route setting. He had an absolute shocker last year, didn't make the finals. So probably best not to mention that. Un San Shin. A little bit awkward here. Uses the hands and the pick on that stone hold. Quite different style of holds to what she's used to in Korea, but of course the number of years she's been competing means that she's just super experienced really on everything. 42 years old. With 11 World Cup individual wins to her name. Coming up to that big reach with the left. I suspect she will make it look quite easy. And she's going to take her time a little bit, just to get her feet a little bit further over, and otherwise does indeed make it look easy. It was 5 years ago that she won the overall tour, and she's currently tied at the top with Petra Klingler. So that is going to be a really exciting battle tonight. Finals begin at 7 p.m, provided she gets into them. So anything can happen in this sport. Very, very unforgiving. And disasters can befall even the most experienced of athletes, as they have done to Un San Shin back in 2017. She had a disaster. She came 23rd in Saas, an absolute disaster for someone of her caliber. But here she is, and she's reached that volume. Now, this is really the deciding factor on this women's semi-final route. She takes with the hands, like other athletes. Gets the right foot over. So far, so good. She's going to try and get that draw. Oh, hanging the tool off the leg. That didn't look good. Interestingly, she's going for that the next hold without clipping. No, and she's off. That's a disaster for Aung San Shin. An absolute disaster. It's questionable now whether she can get into the finals. That hold clearly is not as secure as they think it is. It's so sketchy. And she just peeled off it. Just seemed that she was too high in the hold, in the move. And it just ripped. She will be disappointed with that. And of course, if that means that she's out, that leaves it wide open for Petra Klingler. And questionable whether even Aung San Shin can get onto, is still a contender for the overall title. As a bit of a debrief there from Emma McSwiggan. McSwiggan, who fell there. Remember that all the athletes have been in isolation. They don't know that this is the spot, that they don't know what's happened to all the others in the semis. There's nothing that can be done there. They're looking at the... can look up. Look at the results. But that leaves Aung San Shin currently in 11th place with a score of 9.18. We won't see her in tonight's finals. And she was tied at the top with Petra Klingler, with Emma McSwiggan in 3rd place. So, anyway, we now move on to Franziska Schön-Beckler from Switzerland. Now, we haven't seen her on the tour much this season, but she did impress us last year at the World Championships here in Saas, where she came 3rd. So, anything is possible from this 25-year-old from Switzerland. This is the only stop she's competing in. The fact that she is 4th last indicates she did very well in qualification. Schön-Beckler begins her semi-finals here in Saas, and she has 6.5 minutes to get across that traverse to guarantee her place in tonight's finals. The 2 Sam holds there. Just lays back off it, gets the feet, works them upwards. Schön-Beckler looking pretty strong here. Also quite a tall athlete, 174 centimetres. About 5'9". For those of us in feet in inches. Means she's got that good reach, and she puts it to good effect to get that next Sam hold. Matches with the left hand on the tool and moves effortlessly onto the next one. A lot of these stone holds. 5 minutes remaining on the clock. She's got the speed here. She's moving really a lot faster than many of those earlier athletes we saw earlier on, and she gets this hold, this move, really with minimal fuss. And we saw earlier athletes stuck there for a good few seconds while they pondered how to take it. She's really moving nicely here. Very strong indeed. She doesn't have the experience, but what she does have is youth on her side. Also the home advantage, of course. Psychologically, that can help. So into that metal hold. She finds the sweet spot pretty easily. Pulls through on the rope now on the left, gets that next quick draw. Oh. Sometimes it can be tricky to get it. Now, here begins the fun. She's got just under 4 minutes remaining to get across this traverse to secure her place into tonight's finals. Both hands now come out. She's on the volume. How's she going to take it? Straight away she tries to get that draw. That was again Eunsun Shin's mistake not to get that quick draw before committing to the move. Now she's got the reach, ample reach, but has she got the position, the angle? You've got to get the angle right. Oh, and she's off. She doesn't have it. It's very clear that this hold needs to be taken much lower down. If the arm is outreached, it just got to get those feet over first before you can commit to weighting it. Nonetheless, a solid performance there from Franziska Schönbeckler. So, Franziska Schönbeckler, still got a couple more Swiss athletes to come, Sina Gertz and Petra Klingler, so a really great team they've got. She gets a comforting chat there from Vivian Labaril. Some support from the team. Frantic look at the results, the live leaderboard. Currently, it leaves her in 6th place. So we can see that from Maria Soltysova onwards, they're really all, it's very, very close indeed. If there are ties, it comes down to count back. That means they look back to how they performed in the previous round. So that would be qualifications, and that will determine who goes through if there are ties. So next up is Enni Bertling, who's come all the way from Finland to take part here in the UIAA World Cup here in Saas, Switzerland. So she's taking part in every stop. Currently ranked 8th in the overall title. She was in Korea, where she came 12th. She was in France last weekend, where she came 6th. And last year she won the European Tour. So it's now just her ambitions lie with the World Tour. And of course, bringing on the next generation of climbers. She's a coach for Finnish youth. And those youth championships will be taking place in Oulu, Finland, later next month. Also got Glasgow in 3 weekends' time on the European Cup stop. Still a couple more events left in this season. She's just figuring out first hold, getting into position, deciding how she wants to start. So the clock starts when one of those tools moves away from the hold. And both feet are off the ground. So it has begun. 6.5 minutes now for Annie Bertling from Finland. Also competes alongside her husband, Pauli Salminen, one of the husband and wife teams here. Others being Marion van der Steen and Dennis van Hoek, another husband and wife competitors. I think there's a little bit of a family affair here in this close-knit community. See lots of couples and siblings, lots of siblings here. Gantner brothers, the Bossards. Just really see how small those holds are. Just how delicate you need to be. No sudden jerky movements. You can't just haul yourself up with thuggish brute strength. It's all just very delicate body position, good footwork, tension, staying calm in the stress. And he just glances with her eyes there just to try to look behind, just to see that she's got the right place for that pick. And that's so important. The pick is in exactly the right spot. Minute has gone into that undercling with the right. Not as secure as a Stein. It floats. It's not flush against the wall, so that means it's a little bit more demanding on the core stability. A little bit of wobble. And now next up are those two Sam holds. So far, so good for Annie Bertling. However, we saw with Unsan Shin, anything can happen. Even the most experienced athletes are prone to suffer disasters. Big reach here now. Annie has got one of the biggest reaches of the women, and you can see it there. She has an ape index of +3. That's where your arm span is longer than your height. And she is 175 centimeters, almost 5'10". Very tall, good reach, big hands. Maybe those hands will help again when it comes to the traverse that she's coming up to now on that volume. That has really been the separator for these athletes in the women's semi-final. Separating really those who can get past and those who just get stuck and fall on that big reach, on that side pull, on that shiny metal hold. Unlike other metal holds, this one doesn't have an exact spot. It doesn't have like a little divot, a little spot where the tool will just sit in and be as super bomber. It's shiny, slippery. Now, Annie Bertling, both hands now on the volume, gets that 10th draw. Again, does well to do that. Gets the reach, no problem. Now, and she's learnt early that it is not as solid as it looks. Tries to get that foot over. Can she get it over? She can. Now reaches with the right. And this is the way to take it, much lower down in the move. Oh, so gently. She looks like she's done it. Can she get onto the box? She can, and she commits. Good work there from Annie Bertling, who with that move guarantees her place into tonight's final. Now the next high point she needs to get to. She's approaching the where Haruka Takuchi got to. Really building a bit of momentum here. Difficult to see exactly the hold that she needs to get, but it's a big reach. Annie Bertling, a minute remaining on the clock here for the Finnish athlete. Just swaps out the hands. Clock is losing valuable time here. Feet coming off. Oh, and she's off. Just ran out of strength there, but that should be enough to see her through into tonight's finals. Having managed to get across that really sketchy traverse. This was it. Got to get those feet onto that lower volume. That seems to be the keys to this puzzle. Committing onto that hold when you've got a little bit of swing in the body just has ended in disaster for so many of the athletes here this morning. So Annie Bertling just waiting for the scores to update, and she moves into 4th place, so that will see her into tomorrow and into tonight's finals there. Chats with Emma McSwiggan. And it looks like they're having a little debrief on that traverse. Great performance, though, from Annie Bertling. And we've just got 2 more remaining athletes to come. Yeah, it looks like she's just trying to explain how she just couldn't quite connect that Stein move, that last hold there with that reverse grip. So next up is Sina Gertz, and after that, we just have Petra Klingler left here in the semi-finals. A reminder that we've got the men's semi-finals at 1 o'clock. And then, of course, the finals at 7 p.m. local time. We've got a lot of action still to come today. But first, it's Sina Gertz, 23-year-old Swiss athlete. European Cup champion. From 2019 and 2020. Disappointingly for her, she wasn't able to compete last year. She went down with COVID just before the contest. Really warms those arms up. Gets the blood right to the fingertips. So Sina Gertz. Second last weekend in Champagny. Didn't take part in Cheongsong. She's a super strong climber. Sina Gertz, really, really experienced. Got great technique, great flow. Moves really efficiently. Sina Gertz. Moving effortlessly up this lower section of the route. excuse me, I was reading the wrong notes. She did compete in Cheongsong earlier this season. I thought she did. She came, she took the bronze, was third there, and was seventh last weekend, not second in Champagny. She had something of a shocker last weekend in Champagny. She was, of course, marked down. She did top in a great performance, but did a foot touch the out of bounds region, and there was an appeal, and she was marked down to 7th place. So she's currently 4th in the overall standings, just 12 points behind Emma McSwiggan. Looking very, very strong here. Sina Gertz working her way up this part of the route. 4 minutes remaining on the clock. Not quite yet at the part where the fun begins. Gets the metal hold with the right. Now it's about getting the hands on the volume. She's going to get that next quick draw. She is. She gets it. This is the crux of the women's semi-final, at least one of them. And it's just one hold in particular that has proved the nemesis of so many climbers here this morning. Sina Gertz now, she's going for the hold before reaching for the draw. And it pays off for her. She's much lower in that hold. Got a little bit of security. Matches with both tools in it. Interesting. Has she got the reach to get that next one? She does and commits. Oh, and she is off. So many athletes have come unstuck here. Even though she'd committed to it, she'd got it, she had her feet in the wall and still came off. Nonetheless, that should be enough to see her through to the finals. It's always a difficult job for the route setters to find something that challenges all the athletes, but you don't want to have something that just proves too difficult for everyone. Sina Gertz moves into 5th place with that performance, so it is enough to get into the finals, and that's all that counts at this stage. Next up will be fellow Swiss climber Petra Klingler, who needs very little introduction. A former bouldering world champion, Olympic athlete, and of course a stalwart of the UIAA Ice Climbing World Tour, and competing for many, many years. Just waiting for her to come out. So currently in 8th place is Franziska Schönbäckler, who fell at that traverse. So it's all about getting to that traverse and getting onto that wooden box. If she can get onto the wooden box, she's through. Lots and lots of experience from this girl. 30 years old. Trains for 25 hours per week, which is considerably more than many other athletes. She's a full-time professional athlete. She's got that power and experience. But let's see if it's enough to see her through, because disasters do not respect experience. Mishaps, you can just get a little sketchy hold. It rips, and you're off. So into that Stein, moving nice and fast through these opening moves. Starts a little bit overhanging. Then you're up this vertical part of the route, tackling these SAM holds, these small little bits of rock, set into a kind of circular disc. Matches with the left. I mean, one thing going for Petra Klingler, she's got that experience of the bouldering experience, will really help on that move. Using your hands. So there's the leaderboard. Marianne van der Steen currently leads the rankings. The upset of having lost Eunsun Shin. Doesn't even figure in the top 8. Just opposing tool pressure there. Was known as the Gaston move. Again, straight into the hand hold here. She'll be familiar with the style, familiar with the stone holds. So that will count for something for Petra Klingler. Into that floating undercling. And straight onto that next SAM hold. She's got one more just above her before committing to that. The next, that big reachy move. That was the first real obstacle. We saw, if you remember, some of the first few athletes getting into a figure 4 to make it. Don't think we'll see Petra doing that. Let's see. Interesting. Using the hand. Reaches up. She's got it. Great work here from Klingler. Still just under 4.5 minutes remaining on the clock. Just pulls the rope through to get that draw. Get a little bit higher on the scoreboard. She's starting to approach the high point reached by Eunsun Shin, 9:18. But it's really this volume. Now, I have bad news for Petra Klingler, because she says that the moves that she hates the most are those sketchy, slippery moves. And that is precisely what awaits her after this volume. So into that, gets really great accuracy there, just getting the pick straight into the hole, on that hold. Good footwork, as you can expect from bouldering world champion. Now, let's see how Petra Klingler gets on here. Has a look, reaches with the hand. She'll be someone who's totally comfortable with the hands, with that bouldering and sport climbing experience. So just remember, there's a tool in the mouth, another over the shoulder. It is tricky. She's looking down onto that volume. Good work. That is the key to this puzzle. She hasn't got the quick draw, so if she falls here, it will be very, very costly. Can she get that quick draw to get on the points? There's a lot of wobble in that right pick. She's got it. Good work there from Klingler. Now it's about reaching up onto that big hold on the box. She's got it. She commits. And she's got the strength just to keep herself there. Good work from Petra Klingler, who is climbing her way into tonight's finals, keeping her dreams alive of the overall World Cup title. Still 2 minutes remaining on the clock. So will we see Petra even get near the top? Pulls the rope through. Now she'll want to step up the pace a little bit, just to try and work through these hanging blocks. Big reach, and she gets it on the first run. Great move there from Klingler. Just a couple of draws below the high point from Marianne van der Steen, who did such a great performance on her run. Now a minute remaining on the clock. She's got to get that next shiny hold, the metal one with the green. That's pretty secure if you can just, your accuracy is good. She's going to go into, looks like she's trying to get into the figure four. Into figure four, right leg over left arm. Helps to stabilize her position to reach that next hold. She gets it. Look how small it is. The accuracy required of that is just astonishing. 30 seconds now remaining for Petra Klingler. Pulls the rope through. Now onto that rock, onto that bit of granite with 20 seconds remaining. She is now in the lead. Gets the 16th draw. 10 seconds remaining for Petra Klingler. And she gets onto the next hanging block as the clock runs out on the women's semi-finals here in Saas. So I'm not sure she's heard the judge. She's still hanging in there. She's worked it out now. Just trying to get her tool off. Great performance there from Petra Klingler, who's climbed into the top spot, so she will be last out in the women's semi-finals. In the women's finals, which all kick off this evening at 7 p.m. What a great performance there from all the athletes. Many will be feeling the disappointment of coming unstuck there at that difficult, sketchy traverse. I'm sure there will be many, many agonizing hours of what-ifs on how to take it. It just had to be taken in a certain way, that particular hold. And not all of them found the way to do so, but Petra Klingler was one of the athletes who did. Really get an idea of just how tiny some of those holds are. So that brings to a close all the excitement from the women's semi-finals. Let's have a look at the overall the results from that performance. So in first place it was Petra Klingler, Marianne van der Steen in second place, Vivian Labaril in third, Haruka Takuchi. So in eighth place it was Marianne Thomas, seventh Maria Solstasova, sixth Sina Gertz, fifth Eni Bertling, Haruka Takuchi, Vivian Labaril and Marianne van der Steen and Petra Klingler will be the 8 athletes who all will be competing in tonight's finals. So stay tuned for that. That is at 7 p.m. That's it from us. Goodbye.